Hey everybody! Today's stories may get a bit controversial. Leave your comments below. Who's right? Who's wrong? So basically, I moved into a 2BD apartment 2 months ago with Sarah and Jessica. Names changed. Now, Sarah is on the lease, Jessica is Sarah's girlfriend and isn't on the lease. I pay 50%, Sarah pays 25% and Jessica pays 25% of rent. Not my ideal situation, but I was desperate for roommates at the time. Fast forward 2 months, they're enormous slobs who never do anything, so I clean up after them all the time. I vacuum the living room, mop the kitchen, do dishes, etc. I buy most of the shared groceries and household items like TP, which the two of them plow through really quickly. Sarah has a cat in the apartment which is unauthorized, and regularly has an unauthorized dog here too. Their rent is paid late and utilities on the last possible day. Also, the girls smoke copious amounts of weed, and while I don't care, I ask them to be respectful enough to air out the apartment and keep the smoke out of my room. Now last week poop goes south, Sarah and Jessica overheard me bitching about having to clean up after them, and after ignoring me for a few days, sent me a long text about how rude they considered that, etc. So I let out everything that was bothering me, and tell them that if they don't want to live with me, I'll gladly release them from the lease, repay the deposit, and they can go. This causes them to freak out and they tell me, "It's 2 against 1, we will force you to move." Oh hell no. I blocked them on all forms of social media and means of communication. The next day, I went down to the apartment managers and reported the 2 unauthorized pets and the unauthorized occupant. Written notices were given, Sarah and Jessica threw them straight in the trash. I returned from a 4-day stay at my dad's and go straight to report the unauthorized occupant Jessica, who has already once been asked to leave, and both unauthorized pets which were supposed to be gone by now. Well, at this point Sarah and Jessica are getting pissed off. Jessica screams obscenities at me anytime I enter or leave my bedroom. Twice she spent a half-hour period pounding on my door and the walls of my room. She taunts me through the door trying to get me to open up. All of this is being quietly recorded on my phone while I still haven't said a word. So yesterday, I went back down to the office to finish securing my new apartment and to report more violations. When I came home, the chain lock was locked, so I had no way to get in. This is what I had been waiting for. Jessica taunts me again, on video, and then slaps my hat off my head, hitting me square in the forehead with the back of her hand. Bingo! The revenge. I call the cops, rat Sarah and Jessica out for being druggies, get all their paraphernalia confiscated, and get a police report for battery. Come Monday, I'll be on my way to the prosecutor's office to press charges. The apartment managers will also be getting a copy of this report. Also, tomorrow is the last day to pay rent before it's late. Sarah and Jessica disappeared early this morning. If they don't pay rent, I'm gonna get them on the abandonment clause, finally get them evicted, and have the locks change. All before I move out tomorrow. It's 2 against 1? Think again. When people ask, "What's the worst thing you've ever done?" my mind instantly loads the following story into memory, but I've never shared it. Until now. Obligatory background. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest to an entertainment industry family. I spent a lot of my formative years on the road touring. It was a deceptively conservative life. When I was around 8 or 9 years old, I witnessed a jazz sax player from a band that my dad had booked shoot up and drop dead. This really drove home just say no. High school straight shooter. I played music all through school and started working professionally at a young age. I was pretty much straight edge until college. I got around to reading some Hunter S. Thompson and decided that a bong hit wasn't going to kill me. A few years out of school, around 1991, I started a small indie dance label and recording studio. This was back before every kid with a laptop could record in their bedroom. Anyhow, my company HQ became a favorite hangout for local rave promoters and club kids. I became pretty well connected in that scene. I started experimenting with more and more types of party drugs and subsequently found myself with friends who were either major dealers or dealer adjacent. Untouchable. In this clique there were 3 or 4 dudes who would be considered douchebags. You know the type, fake tan, steroids, bleached hair, nice cars, etc. There was one dude in particular whom I always got a bad vibe from. As a young man. In my 20s I liked sex as much as the next guy, if not more, but even when I was out clubbing looking to get laid, I never pushed my agenda, never used coercion, guilt, etc. to manipulate a woman into bed. If I spend $300 on dinner, I never felt like they owed me something. The only expectation I had was, if you make the date, show up. Which is just good manners. Anyhow, back to the douchebag. Let's call him Tyler. This guy had a great sense of humor, the kind of good looks that make straight boys say damn, money, and a politically connected family. During the time I owned my label, I also played in jazz clubs in our city. One of the venues was this really cool martini bar. One of the bartenders was this super cute, bubbly, bright, and just downright fun girl. I met her in the rave scene, but got to know her through my jazz gig. She was super flirty but was super old-fashioned. I'm not saying she was waiting for marriage, but close. She had grown up in a really small town and never really encountered bad people in her daily life, so she was quite trusting. This all changed when she was date raped by Tyler. He played the long con with this lovely human being. She had very little experience with drugs and sex when she went out with him. He got her whacked out on MDMA, did some pretty messed up things to her, had a buddy take photos, and violate her too. She was never the same after that. PTSD, self-loathing, depression. It was as if he killed her. Turn the other cheek, my fanny. Tyler told her that she had blacked out and didn't remember being into it. And peppered her with the typical bullcrap along the lines of, I don't have to rape anybody, I get all the girls I want. Along with, nobody will believe you, and even if they did, there's no way I'll get arrested. Etc. Personally, I was bullied a lot as a kid, and I can take a lot of poop and not blink an eye. But when somebody hurts somebody I care about, I tend to lean toward asymmetrical responses. Ironically, Tyler was not a consumer of drugs nor excessive alcohol. This factors into things later. I spoke to two people about my plan. One was a major drug trafficker, the other was a member of state law enforcement. The Cliff Notes version of the retribution was, I purchased about $3,500 worth of heroin in pre-packaged / ready for retail baggies. I also got about 10 sheets of really powerful blotter acid. Tyler was attending a birthday party at a restaurant where I knew the valet staff really well. Well, not that well, but I was always an over-the-top kind of tipper. They knew me, knew I knew Tyler, etc. I told them I wanted to pull a prank on him and put something in his car. I slipped the guy a C-note, and told him it was harmless and wouldn't come back on him. So he agreed. I put the contraband under his passenger seat. Gave the keys back and took off. Springing the trap. Tyler was a creature of habit and always took the same route home. My friend the state trooper didn't know what I was up to. I simply told him this dude who hangs around my circle of friends was becoming a major drug dealer and it putting my friends in danger. I told him the where and when and left him to his own devices. Around 1:20 a.m. Tyler gets pulled over and my friend does a DUI check. Tyler went ballistic because he was stone cold sober. The trooper asks if he can search the car. Tyler agrees because he knows his car is clean. He gets arrested for possession and intent to distribute, and the legally concealed pistol in his car didn't help either. He fought the law. If he hadn't been such an unfettered a-hole, he would have gotten away with no jail time, but he was disrespectful to the judge and got 18 months in prison, not jail, prison. He really was a moron. Instead of keeping his head down, shutting the hell up and doing his time, he acted like a horse's donkey and ended up getting killed. I didn't mean for the revenge to go that far, but I don't feel remorse for how things played out one bit. I hope his rapist buttocks rots in hell. This is the story of the time I ruined the life of an online troll. Now, this may sound extreme, however, I believe it was justified given the circumstance and nature of my encounter. To understand how I found this individual, I need to take you back to 2015. It was in 2015 that I would spend my days Googling pointless topics. One day, I decided to look up opinions on the meaning of life. I scrolled through various pages of search engine results until I came across the concept of nihilism. What is nihilism? Nihilism interested me because it was unlike any other belief I found on my search for the meaning of life. To put it simply, nihilism is the belief that the world is meaningless. It is a pessimistic approach to life, which suggests that there is no point in life because nothing holds real relevance. Nihilism can make people believe existence does not matter, therefore their actions do not either. Many people view nihilism as a realistic belief that opposes our human nature to seek significance. I wanted to speak to a real-life nihilist and hear their opinions on life. What I found shocked me. Nihilism explained. Nihilism on social media. Upon discovering nihilism, I joined several Facebook groups surrounding the topic. These groups were full of dark humor and memes that made fun of life and death. Comments such as "existence is misery" was common to see. In these groups, I came across a few genuine nihilists. The community was predominantly made up of people who were depressed, or people who would see the humor in depression. The nihilist approach meant that depression was not important, because nothing is relevant. This was why suicide jokes are a hit in nihilism groups. I found that the constant sharing of suicide memes meant that people become desensitized to death. People would believe that their existence is meaningless, which is not a good thought to have if you are dealing with genuine depression. I spoke to one individual privately who said they did not want to live anymore. They told me the world is not real but my sadness is. The world is not real, but my sadness is. This made me realize that nihilism and depression are a bad combination. I reassured this person and told them they were important. A few months later, I went to get in touch to see how they were getting on, but I discovered that their Facebook account had vanished. Nihilist meme. Encountering the troll. Fast forward to mid-2016 and I get a Facebook notification from one of the nihilist groups. It was someone seeking genuine advice to kill themselves. They said they wanted their death to be peaceful but they were scared. Upon checking the comments of the post, I noticed one person advising them to run into an oncoming train, as this would be painless and fast. The person giving the advice was the troll whose life I went on to ruin. For the remainder of this article, I will refer to the troll as Nigel, to protect identity. At the time, I thought that Nigel was being edgy for the sake of it, but this was not the case. I thought back to the time when I spoke to the person who told me their sadness was real but the world was not. The fact they had disappeared off social media gave me goosebumps. I assumed that the worst had happened and that this could become a reoccurring story in this group. I decided to look up posts and comments made by Nigel in the group. All the comments turned out to be methods for depressed people to kill themselves. Nigel would give people reassurance that death was the only way out. He would pretend he was doing the people a favor. A distraught man posted that he was ashamed that he kept failing to kill himself. Nigel told him not to beat himself up about it, and that if he works hard, one day he will be able to do it. Using Facebook as a weapon. I realized that Nigel was not your ordinary troll and that I had to do something to stop him. I created a fake profile to contact Nigel. At this time, I had no intention to ruin his life, I just wanted to stop him ruining the lives of others. On my fake profile, I told him that I had seen his comments and that they could have a devastating effect. He replied to tell me that he did not care. Facebook troll. The first warning. From my understanding, Nigel had the belief that depression was a weakness to humanity. It appeared he was on a mission to weed out the weak members of society. It was almost like he got a buzz from it, some weird kick that motivated him to do it that I could not understand. I warned Nigel that if continued, there would repercussions. He told me that he did not care and then blocked my fake profile. I logged into my genuine profile and checked for new posts by Nigel. A day later, I saw that he was back to his old tricks. He was, yet again, giving suicide advice to another mentally tortured soul. The second warning. Nigel had made a crucial mistake by not setting his Facebook profile to private. I was able to see every post that he had ever made, as well as the friends that he had. Nigel was a family man and made it clear on Facebook how much his wife meant to him. I decided that I would give Nigel his second warning. This time I would make it more personal. This time I wanted to put the fear into him. Within 10 minutes, I was able to find Nigel's home address. I decided that I would write a letter to his address. This letter was handwritten to add a personal touch. On the envelope, I addressed the letter to his wife's name so that he would not be able to simply brush it under the carpet. The letter read the following: "Your husband continues to encourage suicide online. He provides methods of suicide for depressed people and he must be stopped. Could you please let him know that this is his final warning? I will be watching." The letter was sent with the intention to make Nigel stop doing what he does. I thought that this would be the only way that I could get through to him. The more I thought about it, the more I felt guilty that his wife may be living in fear. This was something I did not take into consideration initially. My mission to stop Nigel clouded my thought, however, I knew this was necessary for the greater good. The final blow. It had been a month since I wrote the letter and I had not seen a single post from Nigel. I thought maybe I had finally got through to him, But I was wrong. Another month had passed and Nigel was back at it again. I was disappointed, however, I was not prepared to give up. I reached out to the depressed victims to let them know they had my support. Nigel had to pay for his actions, but how? I decided to take a deeper look into Nigel's personal life. His use of the internet meant that his life was essentially an open book. I was stunned when I discovered that he worked at a care home. He was not someone I could trust in society to care for others. I knew I had to deliver the final blow. Nigel's LinkedIn profile revealed that he was a senior member at a care home. This care home was reputable and risked their reputation by hiring him. I dug deep to pull out a barrage of screenshots I had of Nigel's activity online. After some contemplation, I decided that I would get in touch with the care home via their Facebook page. I logged into the fake profile via a proxy and sent the screenshots. I did not believe that he was fit to be trusted with human life. A member of staff replied to say that the case had been handed over to the CEO. Facebook Messenger screenshot. The aftermath. A week later, Nigel was no longer on the company website and had also removed the care home from his LinkedIn page. It was clear that his actions had caused him to lose his job. Nigel's relationship status on Facebook had changed from in a relationship to it's complicated. In almost an instant, he had lost his job and damaged his relationship with his family. Nigel had completely stopped posting on Facebook and eventually shut his Facebook account. This guy's life was turned upside down, and it all stemmed from his actions online. I have comfort in knowing that he will never encourage suicide again. Everybody has their right to an opinion, but nobody has the right to prey on the vulnerable. Do I feel guilty? Of course, but then I remember all of those people that he sought to destroy. This man was in a position of care. What if my actions had saved the life of someone? It is these thoughts that make my guilt fade away. What did you think? What would you have done differently? Share your opinions in the comments. And if you enjoyed the stories, slap that like and subscribe button for more of them, and don't forget to support the original writers with an upvote. Links are in the description. Peace out, and catch you tomorrow.